Know that.
Right, something about Victoria. Need the in Tibetan the word is kelwa. You need the kelwa to get on your flight, like the virtue or the goodness.
I think that's not talked enough about, just in my opinion. I mean, you got to have the goodness.
Yeah.
And I think it's a basis kind of thing. And I think we forget that sometimes. I mean, not that we're not good. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying how important that is. But anyways, I'll be quiet.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's really true.
we,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, we are ready to start.
Cool.
Please teach us ACI 9. Thank you.
WVP in the house. Hey, Frank. It's good to see you. Okay. I'm just gonna stall for a minute or two. There's a lot of people registered for this course, much fewer showing up. The benefits of being able to access recordings. However, um, I hope I'm not jumping the gun. Let me just see. Hold on a second. Oh, I can't officially announce it, but the next class, I've asked Venerable Jigme to come and make a guest appearance. Um, she's someone that's actually edition for, so yesterday gave me a little bit of shit about a non-ordained person teaching about ordination. And I thought, fair enough. So I'm trying to convince her to um, put her money where her mouth is and show up. And class happens to be a nation, and the more nation. So cross your fingers. We might have a special guest next class, Tuesday. She won't teach the content. There's not a ton of content. It will be more of a chance for me to ask her questions, for her to share insights, and for you all to ask her questions. So we'll put it out in the chats if she can make it, if she accepts, and then come with your questions. Cool. So I'm excited about that. Um, she has translated Vinaya texts, and she's the one that Geshe Michael kind of, one of the very few people that he's, you know, given special classes to and private classes to, and that has taught the Vinaya herself. So that would be cool. That's the plan. Crossed fingers. Plan for today. Can we submit questions ahead? Sure. Great idea. Um, where to submit them? You can submit them on any of the Telegram chat. Maybe Karina, you could post a whatever you call them, and you can always just, Stevie, you got a direct line to me. You can just shoot them to me, if nothing else. Um, Plan for today. First off, I know the times have been changing a bit. I'm sorry if that's been confusing. I had some conflicts with other classes. I appreciate the flexibility. Appreciate Karina trying to keep everyone on track. And I appreciate those that are standing outside laser tag, putting in the effort to try to make it to class. We'll start with a question. We'll continue with details of pratimoksha vows. We'll do a breakout group and we'll finish class. So if you bail out on the breakout group, mentioning no names, Rosie Blackburn, then you don't hear the rest of class. Just kidding, Rosie. I know you've become a fan of breakout groups over the years. Sort of. Okay, question. I just was reflecting and I was curious. And I wanted to ask, how has the course changed you so far, or if it has? Like, has anyone had any insights or thought differently about things? And like, how is this practical? Like, how are we finding a way to make it practical, or what's changed? Anything like that. I'm curious if this is just, you know, intellectually stimulating, but not life-changing, or neither, or both. So I'm curious. So anybody wants to chat it in, that's fine. I would prefer to have you unmute and share your thoughts. Putting you all on the spot, first thing.
Having kept these vows for a long time, and in the way I make decisions.
Stevie, I'm going to remind you that we're being translated into 2 other languages.
All right. So, but like that, having kept these vows, stayed close to them for a long time, it's made life easier, particularly in the area of how I make decisions. Like the ant crawling across the floor, I don't kill it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a real change. Thanks, Stevie. I always want to break the ice. Who else got some ideas? How's these classes? What's the takeaway? What's the big takeaway or something like that? I was a little nervous to ask this because so far this is wildly discouraging.
I can say something. I feel like it's reinforcing for me how important like every little micro movement of mind is, because our thoughts become our words and our words become our actions. And so I feel like it's like the level of morality that we're striving to be at is like so perfect and precise with everything. And yes, I'm just thinking about that a lot more.
Yeah, cool.
Not trying to get lazy and just like keep my mind there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's upped my game a little bit too. Anyone else? Oh, Karina said discipline is freedom. Ola sharing about vegetarianism and veganism. All right. let's do class. But yeah, I do encourage us to, oh, Rosie B, recommitted to vows, cool. Yeah, this course is a lot of lists, and I'm struggling to figure out how to present Vinaya in a way that's relevant to our world and to you, to me. And I think we need to I hope we can take the opportunity and reflect on how is it relevant, or how can I make it relevant? So as we go through the classes, try to keep that in mind. What's the point? My favorite spiritual question is, who cares? Like, constantly, I think we should be asking that question. Who cares? And to be evaluating, what we're doing on, is it relevant? Let's have a look at the PPT. We missed one slide from last class. So those that are doing homework hopefully could get it from the reading. But let's go over it. We're talking about prati moksha vows. What is prati?
Individual
Yeah, and what is moksha?
liberation.
Yeah. And why are they called prati moksha vows? Because if me as an individual keeps them, then me as an individual gets freedom. And freedom has a specific meaning, which is and go on nirvana. So are we saying that the goal of the Vinaya teachings is not Buddhahood?
I say yes.
We've got an answer for yes. Anyone want to take that on, challenge that idea? Let's take a vote. Raise your hand if you think the goal of the Vinaya teachings is Buddhahood. And now we'll take the other side of the vote. Raise your hand if you think the goal of the Vinaya is nirvana. Cool, Christian, I'm on your team. And Wendy's team. Team Nirvana. It seems to me that the Vinaya is talking about nirvana, that's their goal. And that's reflective of, it's not a Mahayana tradition. So it's not until we get into a Mahayana tradition that we see the text talking about full Buddhahood and making that distinction. So here are the 8 groups of vows that are covered, that the Vinaya covers. Right. So the Vinaya we talked about had a bunch of divisions, like what's the essence of the vows? How do you take them? How do you keep them? But the main part is, what are they? Just reading Benji's comment. All right. So here's the 8 different sets of vows in the Pratimoksha vows. We have 1-day vows. We'll be talking about that. We're talking about lifetime lay vows for women and men. There are novice nun vows, novice monk vows. Then there's a anomaly. There's a one that kind of sticks out. Intermediate nun vows. And I figured out, I asked Venerable Jigme why? And the answer was pretty funny. And then we have full nun, full monk. Okay, why do we have intermediate nuns vows and not intermediate monk vows? Anybody know? For those that don't know Venerable Jigme, one of the things I love about her is she's a little irreverent. She's a little sarcastic. So when I asked her why yesterday, I was in the airport, why is there only intermediate nuns vows and not monks vows? And she just wrote one word. She's like, misogyny. That was it. And but then I pressed her for more details than the Buddha being a misogynist. And best I could figure out is the nuns took an intermediate vow for a year or two. She said 2 years. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but 2 years to make sure that they weren't pregnant, because it doesn't look good if there's a pregnant full nun walking around your monastery. Why you need 2 years to figure that out? Not exactly sure. You'd think that they would figure it out a little earlier than that. Apparently, that was the reason. So the intermediate nun vows, there's more vows than the novice nun, fewer than the full nun. I think there's more to it than that, but Venerable Jigme said, as far as I can tell, that's the main reason. But also, it gives people a chance to try out the vows a little bit before taking full ordination. I think that's also part of it. And she said they're not really given anymore. People kind of take novice, nun, don't really take the intermediate step and then just skip to the full nun vow. Eka, am I killing you? Is the space okay? All right. So, but there's a problem with that, because there is no Tibetan full nun lineage anymore. That got broken 1,000 years ago. So we talked about how our vows taken. In that ceremony, lineage. Some killing all of the nuns and succeeded. and the guy. And it's a very famous example of but there's a list of need to be able to do to kill like you have to be able to read their mind. You have to see that there's no other way to stop them. And then you have to be able to send their consciousness into a better place for them to learn the teachings. And this guy met all of the requirements. And killed them, apparently. So people have been trying to figure out how to restore the full non-ordination lineage. There's full nun lineages, just not Tibetan. And so a lot of the nuns that I know with full ordination got their ordination in non-Tibetan lineages. And I know the Dalai Lama was trying to figure out how to revive the lineage. Geshe Michael did a lot of research in how to recreate the full non-ordination lineage. And I don't know, it was 10 years ago or so, Geshe Michael started to give full nun vows. And I believe that, I don't know if it was Dalai Lama, but also in the Tibetan lineage, they're now given. I'm not totally clear on that, but there you go. How does a lineage get revived? Interesting question. Okay, so we went over the 8. There's your 8 groups. Okay, get into some division. And that's whether you come to with that entering a, or being celibate, not having a, it's like family life, not family life. The vows that relate to you can still be engaged, have a family, do all those things. The one-day vow, lifetime lay vows, which is the kind of the meaning of a lay person, someone not ordained. Or there's the other ones which are related to having left the home life, the family life. You're not a normal householder. And that's the ordination vows. It seems pretty clear cut, right? By the way, where's the refuge vows in all of this? Oh, hold on a second. Jigme has just accepted. So we're on for Tuesday. Get your questions ready. Yeah, where's the refuge vows? Come back to me on that. So this the household. There is another type of vow called Rabjung vows, and you'll run into this. You might never run into this. It's a thing, and it's a not technically pratimoksha vow. You've agreed to leave the home life, but you're not really ordained. So once upon a time, I was in a relationship with somebody, and she was going to get ordained. So it was strange. It was very kind of a weird setup, but kind of by accident, we ended up in a relationship, and her intention was to get ordained, and so we were at a monastery, a retreat center called Vajrapani, and it was like, I don't know, like 9 at night. She was a student of Lama Zopa, and it's like 9 at night, and she got a phone call from Lama Zopa. That was like, ordination is happening tomorrow between, like, he did the charts, and it's like it has to be between 9 a.m. and 11. And so just kind of freaked out, and went into our separate bedrooms for the night. But she said, that day, for the first time, she had questioned her intention to take ordination. Like, well, this is kind of nice. Maybe we should maybe I should have a relationship. And that day, her lama called her, and it's like, ordination tomorrow, 9 a.m. And so we went to his house, and so you wear the robes. So she had the robes, and we did the whole head shaving thing, and we're all very nervous and excited, and 9 o'clock comes, and we're waiting for Lama Zopa, and we're walking around the stupa, and 10 o'clock comes, and we're a little more nervous. Lama Zopa's not exactly famous for being on time. He's more famous for being 10 hours late or going 10 hours over. 11 o'clock comes and no word, and we're like, that's it, the window is closed. And hours later, he called her in, and she kind of came out, and she was like, what's going on, what happened? And he gave her Rabjung vows. So it's, my understanding is, it's a set of 8 vows that includes celibacy. You wear the robes, but you're not really ordained yet. And he told her to go get ordained from Dalai Lama. So it really felt like he was just kind of like intervening in the course of history and being like, get this woman her Rabjung vows before she takes a left turn. Ordination is the path for her. And as soon as there was doubt, he was like, okay, tomorrow. Doing Rabjung vows. And she got ordained from his holiness. That's pretty beautiful. She's done 2 3-year retreats. So, and Rabjung vows are also the vows that we said you can't be ordained until you're 19. But if you see kids in the monastery, they're all running around in robes, right? So what's going on? And they have Rabjung vows. So they're kind of quasi, they've left the home life, but they're not ordained. So it's like, because you can't get ordained till you're an adult. So when we divide all of Pratimoksha, we can divide it into householder vows, ordination vows. And then there's kind of Rabjung doesn't fit nicely in. But it is an important division. It's not like the intermediate nun vows where we just don't see it in the world. We see it all the time. And so it is a step somebody could take if somebody wants to enter into ordination. You can take Rabjung vows. And well, I guess it's not quite ordination, but you can take a vow to leave the homeland. And so it's a thing. Okay. Cool. Let's look at the next slide. So the first set or first division of Pratimoksha vow is one-day vow. As you can see by Sarah's awesome PPT, one-day vows last for 1 day. Okay. There is 8 aspects of it, and we'll go through them. We'll go through them, and then I'll share a little bit about the ceremony because it's kind of cool, and we'll do the mantra just for fun. So here's the one-day vows. It's living like a arhat for 1 day, or living. The goal of pratimoksha is nirvana, getting rid of all negative thoughts, negative emotions. Someone who's done that is an arhat. So 1 day vows are like, let's pretend we're an arhat for the day. Let's pretend we're fully ordained for the day. Something like that. And to use that vow as an opportunity to really focus the mind in a different way. And it's very cool, I think. It really does help shift the mind for a day and just like create a beautiful opportunity to focus on practice and really simplify. It's just simplifying for a day. So first one, Daria, I saw your question. Thank you. We'll get there. Don't engage in sexual activity for 1 day. Or it's and specifically like the vows are, yeah, it's not to engage in sexual activity for a day. So depending on who you are or how old you are, this frees about 80% of your mind to think of other things and focus on something else. And we did a month-long one time when we went to Diamond Mountain. It was a 5-week term, a 5-week semester, and one time we did a celibacy. We took celibacy vows for a month. We had an option to take celibacy vows for a month, and did that as an opportunity to just totally disengage from that whole realm of sexual activity, and to observe like what happens with that energy. So it's like if we don't, if there's an itch and every time it comes up we scratch it, we never get to transcend to the other side of that itch. Like if the desire for sex comes up and we always just take care of that desire, we never see what's on the other side of that desire. And silence is the same way. And it was so beautiful to learn that in 3-year retreat. Generally, when there's silence, we fill it with noise, music, TV, talk. And especially when we're around other people. And there was the first time in 3-year retreat, we did a 4-month retreat, 4-week retreat, came out, and I invited everybody over to my cabin for a breakfast. We had a big pancake breakfast. There's like 10 or 12 of us, and in total silence. And it was so awkward. It was so weird. We all just didn't know how to act. We didn't know how to, we're like nervously writing notes to each other. And but it didn't take that long, 4 or 5 months into retreat. No problem being around people in silence. It was awesome. Like that discomfort didn't last very long. And you realize just when you have to write a note to somebody to communicate, it takes a while. And there's a lot of times at first you'd start writing a note and just be like, it's just not important. I'm just talking for the sake of talking because I'm uncomfortable. And so communication got a lot more real because it was too hard to just say meaningless things. It became not worth the effort. And it's very beautiful. And it was the same way with taking a month off anything without sexual activity. Don't scratch that itch. See what happens. Like, what's on the other side? And then you have the opportunity to notice all the bad habits of, wanting to fill the space with idle talk or turning on a TV. But all of that with the mind, and how often we have those thoughts, how often the mind goes there. And then after 5 weeks of noticing and trying to kind of look at the habits and assess whether they're good or bad, to re-engage in that world, with some more clarity and intentionality. So, and I think one of the things was to notice how much of that energy or that world is about me instead of my partner or other people. Like how much of it became kind of I don't know, and it became kind of clear how much of that was just about me, and my desire. And so I don't know, I've had at various times in my life, longish periods of intentional celibacy, probably longer of unintentional celibacy. But it's been very, periods of intentional celibacy have been very helpful and illuminating. And so that's the idea. For a day, clear away, just try to disengage from that whole world. Number 2, don't steal. Don't steal something of sufficient value. That's interesting. And in the text, it says a quarter of a karshapana. I will put it in the chat. What the hell is that? In Jetson Kappa's time, they're trying to figure it out. They don't know what the hell a karshapana is. And, or it might have even been before Jetson Kappa. And they come up with an answer. And then Geshe Michael went to his teacher, Ken Rinpoche. And the answer was kind of so old in the culture of Tibet that Rinpoche didn't even know what the answer that they had come up with. It had been lost again. Like they lost it by the time of Jetson Kappa. They kind of figured it out, wrote an answer. And then by Ken Rinpoche's time, he's like, I don't know really what Jetson Kappa's talking about. I don't know what that is. But Ken Rinpoche figured it's like Stevie said, 25 cents to $1, which probably more means it's like an amount that someone would consider stealing, which is pretty subjective. But it's like Geshe-la's example is like, no one, if you take a pen home from work, no one really is going to call you a thief. But if you take 3, like now are you kind of abusing the system? Like is someone going to be like, I just took 3 pens home. What the hell's with that? Like at what point do people kind of give you a little side eye? Like, that's rude. So technically it's taking what is not given. And it's a very small amount. We don't get away with much. And that's the big form of breaking the vow. And then with all vows, we need to kind of branch out from there, to go out from there. Like showing up late and stealing someone's time, or interrupting somebody and stealing someone's voice, or being part of a culture that is obliterating the planet's resource at a completely unsustainable rate and stealing from the future. Or living in Arizona and having a 20-minute shower. No, there's no water for that. So we have to kind of remember to take these vows and expand them out. Okay, killing. Human or a human fetus? It's super clear, it's both. And then again, we kind of branch out. Like, is being do we have to be a vegetarian? And Vinaya is filled with finding these little gray areas. Like, there's a debate about the sexual misconduct one. Like, is there ever a time that you could help somebody as an ordained person by having sex with them? Actually, we'll get to that question later. But the Vinaya is filled with these finding the gray area. And so in Vinaya, the monks have all these rules about food and going out and begging for food. And you're not allowed to refuse food, more or less. And so in Vinaya, it doesn't strictly outlaw eating meat, because the monks and nuns are begging for food and they're supposed to accept what's given. There are other texts that say, that strongly encourage being vegetarian. There's other texts that say, if you get somebody to do something for you, killing, if you get someone to break a vow for you, that's the same as you breaking it. Exactly the same. And Geshe Michael gives an example of paying taxes to a country that is going to war and killing people. And the importance of, at least in your mind, if he always, when he teaches this, he's like, write a letter to your government. Say, I don't approve of my money going to support an unjust war. That's tricky. But anyway, the idea is you can't get someone to rob a bank for you and say, I didn't do it. It's the same as doing it yourself. Other texts say it's worse to kill an animal than to buy the meat. So it doesn't seem like there's a super clear, because you're seeing some, if you think about the seed, one seed is you seeing yourself killing something. And another seed is you seeing yourself buying something. And are those actions different? And I think there's a lot of really great debate going on in the world about finding nuance in these ideas and taking these ideas as a starting point for healthy debate. Fourth one, don't lie, especially about your spiritual life. 2 examples. 1, seeing emptiness directly. 2, saying that you could see somebody's past life or future life. Why? Because that might be implying that you've seen emptiness directly. So they're kind of related. Thought that was kind of cool. Okay, those are the 4 main one-day vows. Let's look at the next. On a high throne or bed. Apparently the Tibetan word for like really fancy chair, same word. Might be related to that's what they sat on. There's sit on, get over, try to live simply is how Geshe taught it. Yeah, like try to simplify our life into, like, maybe we don't have to go out for the super fancy meal today, and we're just going to have a simple rice and beans meal because it's going to be quick, efficient, healthy. That's the feeling of the vow, is live like you were in a monastery. Take off the fancy jewelry. Stuff like that. The next one says, the word in Tibetan is chung. Chung is a Tibetan beer. Don't drink it. It's terrible. It says no alcohol. And also don't do drugs. Drugs are bad for you. Number 7. Dancing, singing, or playing music. These are super interesting. Like, why not? What's wrong with that? And Geshe Michael has always kind of struggled with this because he loves to sing and dance and play music, and doesn't see them as, they're all very holy things for Geshe Michael. They're very spiritual things. They're very important part of spiritual practice. There's parts of the higher teachings where you do these ceremonies and it's like, this is the point in the ceremony where you get up and dance. And it's like, it should be a celebration. And so what's the idea here? We have to kind of tap into Vinaya, the mode or the feel of Vinaya. And it's like, or monastic life, like, is drinking a beer that bad? Or is it what might follow from that that's bad as you lower your inhibition? And the same with, like, if we start dancing and going to the club, does that just kind of let our mind get a little loose and a little wild? That's kind of how it's explained. Like, give it a rest for a day. And specifically, it's just creating space for meditation. So I didn't listen to music for 2 years in 3 retreat. First 2 years, no music. Because if I did listen to music and then I went to meditate the next day or the next week, it was just that song in my head. It was 2 years of getting songs out of my head and trying not to put them in. And it took a while. It took a while for movies to get out of my head. It took a while for YouTube hockey fight videos to get out of my head. A long time. And just like all those stupid videos, like my next 3 retreat is just going to be all sorts of TikTok. It's going to be a shit show. It's in there. All of those videos that we're watching, they stay. The Big Lebowski was the most common movie that came up in my retreat over and over. And so turn those things off for the day. It's not that they're bad so much as do they disturb our meditation? Or are we just filling space? But then after 2 years, I found music really helpful in retreat. It was uplifting, it was joyful, and it was what I needed. So Vinaya is all about common sense. Like, it's not following a rule without thinking about it, or following a rule that doesn't serve. It's like, try to understand the rule, try to live the rule thoroughly so that we really understand it, and then to kind of assess whether it serves, and does it serve 10 years later. Next one, eating after 12 afternoon. So the tradition was to go out once, beg for food, eat once, and then that's it. No more washing up, no more thinking about food, no going to the grocery store. It's a super relief of your mind. That's it. It's awesome. Did it once, done. And then your mind is free for the rest of the day to think about holy things. Like, what if we could free our mind from thinking about sex, food, and money for a day? In the Tibetan tradition, Geshe said that now you become a monk and you kind of declare whether you're going to keep this vow or not. And generally you take it for a certain amount of time. Like, I'm going to keep this for a year. Some people keep it their whole life. But the way the tradition has developed is, it seems like you kind of decide to keep it for a period of time or some amount of time per year. And that the instructions are like, to be practical. Like, there's people in the monastery working the fields, growing the food. And if you're working all day, you're gonna probably need to eat. So it's considered you should use common sense. Okay. Next slide. Those are the one-day vows. This is a great book on them. If you want to, I don't know of a lot of books describing this that have been translated. This is one from someone that I know, student Lamzo. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this ceremony because it's super cool. And it says, you get up at the break of day when you can first see the lines on your hand. And then it says, you get all cleaned up. And then you create a beautiful altar. And then you make some nice offerings. And then you sit down and you generate the state of mind of refuge. And then this book is Mahayana one-day vows. We'll talk about it in a second. So there's one-day vows and Mahayana one-day vows. So in the Mahayana tradition, you would generate bodhicitta. I want to become enlightened. And then once you've taken these vows, you can take them from an image, but the first time you take it from a person, with the person, and then you can do it on your own. And so you see the Buddha and you do the preliminaries, offer them a mandala. And then you're filled with devotion. It says, be filled with devotion to the point where tears fall from your eyes and there's goosebumps on your flesh. And from that state, hold these thoughts as you take the vow from an image or from a teacher. And then you do the ceremony, and then there's a point in the ceremony where you say there's a mantra of purity. And I thought we'd do the mantra of purity, I don't know, 11 times or something. Because I don't know, I love this mantra. So I'll start chanting it a little bit. Please join in. I won't be able to hear you, but it would make me feel better about myself and the world if you do it. Om Amagoshila Sum Barabara Mahashira Sarvapadma Vibhushite Bujadara Samanta Avalokite Humde Soha. Om Amagoshila Sum Barabara Mahashira Sarvapadma Vibhushite Bujadara Samanta Avalokite Humde Soha. Om Amagoshila Sum Barabara Mahashira Sarvapadma Vibhushite Bujadara Samanta Avalokite Humde Soha. Om Amagoshila Sum Barabara Mahashira Sarvapadma Vibhushite Bujadara Samanta Avalokite Humde Soha. Om Amagoshila Sum Barabara Mahashira Sarvapadma Vibhushite Bujadara Samanta Alokite Humde Soha. Om Amagoshila Sam Barabara Mahashura Sarvapadma Vibhushite Bujadara Samanta Alokite Humde Soha. Om Amagoshila Sam Barabara Mahashura Sarvapadma Vibhushite Bujadara Samanta Alokite Humde Soha. Like that. Okay, next slide. Laura says there's another book. Oh, Yungne method. Cool. Nice. Yeah, there's not a lot. There's a few. Geshe has translated the ceremony from a couple of different people. So I do have the ceremony if anyone wants it. I can throw it in the chat at some point. Okay, one day vows. This is weird. Okay. You can't take if you're a full nun, you can't take novice nun vows or you lose your full nun vows. You can't go backwards. Once you have a higher vow, don't take a lower vow or you lose your higher vow. So there's a one-day vow. If you're a novice monk, can you take the one-day vow? No, because it's a lower vow. And you would lose your monk vow. So if you're a monk or a nun, can you not do one-day vow? Well, yes, you can. You can take the Mahayana one-day vow because the Mahayana vow is higher because it's Mahayana. So you can you can be a fully ordained person and take the Mahayana one-day vow and it's not considered a lower vow. Can you have your life lay vows and do the non-Mahayana one-day vow? Right? So there's one-day vows. Let's go back to the slide with the divisions of vows. Yeah. So you can't, if you've got number 5, you can't do number 1. What if you've got your lay vow? Can you do your, so a non-ordination vow? Can you do your one-day vow? Don't know. It's not clear. It's one of those times in the recordings where Geshe says, I'll go and ask Ken Rinpoche and I'll get back to you. Don't know. Best to take the Mahayana one-day vow and not worry about it, because then you're safe for sure. And it's the only ceremony I've ever, I don't know of the non-Mahayana one-day vow ceremony. Okay, let's keep going. Next one. Lifetime lay vows. This was me at the Shivananda ashram when we did kind of something similar. When you do the teacher training there, you take some commitments, and there's a ceremony to have that commitment stick. So that's me and a teacher named Shankar, a great Vedantic teacher who I studied the Bhagavad Gita with. And amazing to hear him chant the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, we'll go a little quicker. It's very similar. We've had these. Lifetime lay vows. Many of us have taken these. These are pratimoksha vows, but vows that are in the section of you don't have to leave the homeland. Don't kill human or fetus. Doesn't mean you can kill bugs. Still don't kill the bug, the ant running across the floor. You just don't technically smash your vow if you kill a mosquito. You do technically get the karma of killing mosquitoes. You just haven't smashed your vow. Don't steal 3 pens. Limit your stealing to 1 pen. Don't lie about spiritual things. Doesn't mean you can lie about non-spiritual things. It's just more bad spiritual things. Sexual misconduct specifically is adultery. Having sex with someone who is not your committed partner. If you don't have a committed partner, you're all good. Do whatever you want. I mean, not necessarily true. That's not true. There's all sorts of rules. There's a lot of rules about sexual misconduct. For this one, it's just simply don't commit adultery. 5th one, don't drink or do drugs. Michael often talks that apparently there's lineages where this is optional. He quotes the Buddha. The Buddha holds up a piece of grass and says, if you drink more alcohol than can sit on the top of the blade of grass, don't call yourself a Buddhist. Don't call me your teacher. Geshe Michael's commentary, it's not worth it. It makes you stupid. It wastes your money. It hurts your body. There's no point to it. Stop. You'll never miss it. Quote unquote. So those are the 5 lay vows. Can you, at some time, briefly review why taking or obtaining a state of refuge is okay? What's refuge? Okay, so that's enough of me talking. Let's take a break from me talking and we'll do breakout groups. Here's the question. I was gonna just say, like, what's the gray area or something like that, you know, like, but let's take a different approach. Consider your lay vows. They all should be broken because at some point in an extreme circumstance, they could help people. There's my position. There's a time and a place. Here's my side of the debate. All those 5, there's a time and a place to break them. In your breakout groups, agree or disagree. Don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery, don't drink or do drugs, don't lie. Does that make sense?
Earl, can you type this debate in the chat if you have it somewhere? And the second
Sure.
question is, for how many minutes do you want the breakout groups? 8?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
That sounds fantastic. It's
Cool.
just like me taking a very extreme position and saying, oh, there's a time and a place to break any one of those 5. Do you agree or disagree? And what would that time and place be? Like, what's the right time to commit adultery? How is that helpful for somebody? Or is that just a absolute no-fly zone? Okay, 8 minutes.
Does anyone need any help to get into the breakout room? Кому-нибудь помощь нужна?
Eu ar trebui să fiu în camera de limba română.
Oh, okay, I see. One
Thank
second.
you.
Okay, let me know if it works.
Oh my gosh, that was quick.
Yeah, they have like 50 seconds left and they will come back. Or maybe earlier. Cool.
Rosie B, I got the next sewing job for you. It's going to be kind of extensive. Can you tailor the whole shirt in? Like it's too wide.
Does it has sleeves?
Yeah.
What kind of sleeves? Like that's in your t-shirt?
No, like the one I was just wearing. I'll send you a picture.
Yeah,
I
I'll
should have.
probably have to take it all apart, but we can try it.
All right. Awesome. It's obnoxiously expensive, so I want to try to see if I can get it to fit. Okay, so who disagrees with the Buddha and that there's a time and place to do something of this sort? Who's going out on a limb? Thoughts? Daria.
I speak, right? Because I'm always ready to say something. So my main point was like it's a territory where war is happening and your life is in danger, and maybe people left houses. Uh, people left houses and you don't have your house, and maybe it's totally fine to come to someone's house to steal some food, or maybe you have a big like someone shot you, or you have a big problem in your body that is very painful and you don't have painkillers, so it's okay to take alcohol, I guess, just to manage the tough pain in the moment. So something like that. So, and we were thinking about celibate. Wow. So I see. Or also one idea was if it's not intentionally, when you maybe drive a car and didn't want, but like an animal shot or a car accident, not unintentional, and maybe you killed someone, but it wasn't your intention. But it still happened because it's happening. Like your previous karma could affect that way. So you cannot like really say you broke your vow. So, but about sexual thing, I only see idea when like total danger and humanity is about to get finished. So this could be a point when you need to, I don't know, to make people and humanity alive, like me say, or or also maybe it's important lineage of if you speak of monks, like they had the war there, and it's important to keep lineage pure, and you should have give teachings.
Keep the species alive.
Yeah, something like that. Another idea was if you kind of Deva marry and someone says you should have a son because we need like Jesus, kind of Jesus to come. So, and we see you're just the right family. You're the right woman to take care of this kind of human.
You're the right person for the job.
Yeah. So maybe if Buddha comes and says you like you should do that. So maybe this is my last fancy idea on that.
That would be so strange. Thank you. Love it. Any other ideas? Megan, mm, failing to break a rule of compassion. Yeah. That's a pretty good quote. When you quote Vinaya to uphold Vinaya, those are Bodhisattva vows, so not quite Vinaya, but that's a pretty good source. Failing to break a rule out of compassion. What would be an example?
I would jump in again because we also had the idea that you can lie about your spiritual views, not like if you're seeing emptiness directly, but this is like common thing here. You shouldn't probably say to everyone so people can think wrong about it, or like say it's just some fancy stuff, and so it's okay to lie then, and not to say like I don't know. Geshe Michael only.
Cool. All right. Couple more minutes. Other thoughts? Thank you, Daria. Thank you, Megan. Benji, I know you could talk about this for hours in various hotel rooms around the world. Wendy.
I have a general question, so it's not specifically related to the debate one. So if we want to cover any of that first.
Go for it. No, let's go for it.
Okay, so I've noticed with the vows that in Buddhism that it's a lot of what not to do. Like you're told not to do this and not, which is really great. And there's not a lot, well, at least on the ones that I've seen anyway, there's not a lot of emphasis on what you should do.
You're being requested to speak a little bit slower.
Sure, sorry. So yeah, so there's a strong emphasis on what not to do. And not so much emphasis on things to do. And I wondered if there's a reason for that. Because if I compare, for example, the 1 day vows, they're quite similar. There's a lot of crossover with, for example, Ramadan. But when you look at the Ramadan way of doing things, there's always iftar. You should leave your door open so that anybody can come in and anyone can eat at the table. So you always offer. Is there a reason why there's more focus on not and less focus on do?
Yeah, the Buddha's just negative. He's just negative, negative, negative. Don't do this. Don't do that.
Okay, so it's just make sure you're not doing stuff.
I don't know. I don't know of a reason. I know that Geshe Michael has chosen to often state the non-virtues from the positive aspect. Yeah. And it definitely gives a different feel. Great question. I'll have to think about it. And I think the Bodhisattva vows and the tantric vows become less of don't do this and more of the do this. So there is a change in feel. Like the lower school and the monastic teachings, they have a certain feel. And it's kind of hellfire and brimstone. Like the lower Lam Rim is kind of hellfire and brimstone, and it has that feeling. And when you really understand those teachings, it's like death is on its way. Get some renunciation, practice, give up everything, focus on Dharma.
Right.
And that's the feel of those, for me, of those lower teachings, lower school teachings, lower scope teachings. And they serve a beautiful purpose, but then I think it's a beautiful balance when we have some upliftingness and some beauty and some not so fear driven.
Yeah.
And we can come at things from a different perspective. Gosh, I really apologize for not leaving more time for discussion. Benji has some stuff. Read the chat. I'll give you one last thing from Jetson Kappa. Apparently there's this discussion of, well, is there a time that a monk or a nun could have sex with somebody and it would be a good thing? And Jetson Kappa's like, no, absolutely not. And the person's like, what if someone tells me they're going to commit suicide unless I have sex with them? And he's like, give your monk vows back first and then do it. He's like, never. He's like, don't even go there. Don't even try to imagine a scenario where it's okay. And in your crazy extreme scenario of someone is like threatening to kill themselves unless you have sex with them, give your vows back first, and then go save their life. Thought that was pretty cute. Okay, my friends, we will have a lot more time for questions next class, and I look forward to sharing the stage with Jikme and have some time to tap into her wisdom and her experience. Until then, thank you all so much. Love you all so much. And some of you I'll see very soon. Some of you, I look forward to when our paths cross. Thank you so much.
Live long, keep teaching.
Doing my best. Thanks, Stevie. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Eka and Octavian, for translating. Thank you, Anastasia and Christy, for recording. See you all very soon. Thank you all for coming. Engaged, cameras on. Love you all. See you on Tuesday. Please check the chat for the schedule. Thanks. Bye. Bye.